So a lot of you guys are getting ready to start your websites, and we already talked briefly about how the website works with masters. But what I wanted to talk about today was when you're dealing with masters and pages, you have to kind of understand how websites deal with what we call footers and headers, okay? And some general website type stuff that you can do. So when you're looking at your pages, okay, we're doing a t-shirt shop here. So if I've got this and I've got men's t-shirts, you'll notice we have these little spaces, these little lines here. These two here, this one represents the top of the browser page, okay? And if you wanted to push that up, you can't. And then this one represents the bottom of the footer. And if you want to move that down, you can't. And then here, you have the top here, which is actually the top of the footer. You can't extend that. But then down here, you can actually extend the bottom of the browser and extend the entire page lengthwise. But you notice you can't change the size of the footer itself. And this looks weird because then what ends up happening is this page will have a little extra. I don't know why you'd ever want to extend the bottom of the browser on a single page, but you can. And I'm sure that there's purposes for that. Right, but usually what's down at the bottom of the page, at that footer area, is actually something that usually is the address of the company, the phone number, contact information, and that's usually pretty standard. But anyway, let's go back to why you couldn't adjust those. The reason why you couldn't adjust those is because the adjustment of the size of the header and the footer is actually controlled by the master. The master has whatever size is in it for those two spaces. So if I want to make my header a little taller, I have to go into the master, and then I can make the header a little bit taller. Or vice versa, if I want to make my footer a little bit bigger, I can take the bottom of the browser down, then I can bring that back. Now, if you bring the bottom of the browser down on its own, and then you start adjusting the footer size, then the bottom of the browser will stay equidistant away from the bottom of the footer until you bring it back. So there's, you just kind of get used to the way it slides around and how you can kind of choose which one, works in which way, okay? But, hang on a second. But when you're doing stuff and you want it across the entire page, it's best to put it in the master. Now, the way that I did this, as we talked about in the previous demo, is I have a master for my home page or my landing page, and I have another master for my all my subset pages. However, I didn't actually set my footer. And so this could be good, could be bad, okay? But because I didn't set my footer, what's going to end up happening is I will have two different footers. Because if you remember correctly, I created the second master from the first. So it's actually really smart when you're using masters to do everything that you want to be the same on all your pages. Do that right away. And I didn't do that here. But if you don't, it's not fatal. You can easily copy and paste. So I'll go back to my master here, and I'm going to create a box. I'll draw it from the bottom of or the top of the footer to the bottom of the footer. I'll use the black selection tool, the black arrow tool here, to kind of snap it to the edges of the page here, okay? And now I can go up to the fill, and I'll click, and we'll just do a solid color, like a, I don't know, like a light, like a gray, like a light. Yeah, that was a really gross color, wasn't it? So we'll do like a gray here, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the green that I have in the menu bar either, but that's all right. We'll just do that. You can add an image to this as well, but right now we'll just do a color, and then I can do a text, and I'll just, we'll do something like, okay, and then I can, Wise Tees, that's the name of my company, and I can center it, and then I can do another text box over here, and I could do like 1-888-8989. That's a real phone number, I'm sure, so don't call that. Right? And I can make it bigger, I can make it whatever color I want. But then take a look. So if I go back here, you'll notice now all of these have the footer here. Now, this is a common problem is people are like, why is it in the middle? Like, what's going on? Well, it's because my page isn't very big right now. Right now, I don't have any content in here, okay? I don't even have a background for my content area. All I've got is this text here for the title. And I'll show you what happens next. But you can see how my footer is actually coming across on all those pages. So now if I want the same footer in my home page, and I might not, but if I do, I can easily just go back to my master, take the black arrow tool, I'll highlight everything, Control-C to copy, or you could edit copy. Then I'll go back here, I'll open up the master for the landing page, and I'm just going to Control-V. And when I drag it in here, I can snap it down here, then resize the bottom of my browser and my footer right there. And now I'm going to have the exact same footer on the landing page as well as on all my subpages. Does that make sense? And it's really cool. So now, if you want your page to have like pictures and stuff and text or whatever, where that comes in is in the middle part. This is the content area. The content area happens between the footer and the header. And in Muse, it looks a little weird right now because it's kind of, it's too skinny, right? It's too short. So to extend that, what you need is you need either a text box or a rectangle or a photograph background, and you can layer these things. So let's go and do a let's see here.
Dog t-shirt.
A what?
A t-shirt with a dog.
Dog t-shirt? I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. It's so disturbing.
No, it's not.
Some of it is, yes. I hate pugs. No, I don't. They're so ugly. They're so ugly. All right. I was gonna. I'm not single. I have a dog. I know. I'm gonna grab a couple. I like that one actually.
Oh no, that happened yesterday.
What? Somebody was blaming the dog in my class?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say that's not going to work much. Okay. So there we go. So now we've got these T-shirts. So I can save them, and I'm just going to go and put them in my folder here for my website, which is where did I put that? Website exam website. I forget where I put Wise Tees. Stink. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Huh? I did an underscore. Okay. No, I did. I put it up. I put an underscore at the top here, so it floated to the top, so I would be able to find it. Ironically, right? So when you're doing items, guys, for your content, sorry about that little delay there, always put them in an images folder, okay? Don't just leave them hanging around out here, because what will happen is, guys, please, what will happen is as you're starting to build this website, you're going to get lots of files. I mean, lots of files. I was recently working on one of my websites because of that whole thing that was happening earlier this week, and I deleted it. And literally, now it had a content management system, but there were 22,000 files in this website. And an average WordPress runs at about 9,000 files, 8,000 to 9,000 files. So, I mean, you can get so much stuff in there that you don't know where's what and what's where. So we're just going to, put that in there, okay? And right-click, save that. In fact, I would probably recommend even better, like I would organize them based on the organization of my site. So men's, women's, kids, that sort of stuff. I'm not going to bother with that right now, but stay organized because you're going to have to be really, know where everything is, or else you're going to be in trouble. So here we go. So now I can go back to my website, okay, and I can go into we'll just go to the men's because that's what I'm using. And so now I can start drawing more boxes, and I've got the difference. There's two types of boxes. The rectangle tool is a box that's meant to be solid, okay. The frame tool is meant to have like pictures. So what I can do is I can grab this and I'll alt-click and I'll make 3 of them. So I'm alt-dragging, which is making 3 equal boxes. It copies them. There we go. And see, as I drag it, it will tell you when you're evenly spaced, which is really cool. And so now I can click the fill button here and I can say add image. And then I'll go back to my photograph here, or go back into my website, images, and then we'll just start adding them. Now, what it does is, first off, it says original size. No, we want to scale to fill so that we can see it, okay? Click on the next one. Same thing. Click fill, okay? Click image, add the next one. Scale to fill. Yeah, I'm definitely stealing images right now, but that's just for the course of the demo. Now, if I were really building a website where I was selling t-shirts, I would have my own products. I would photograph them or pay a photographer to photograph them. Like, I would do that myself, because you're right. If I was trying to sell a t-shirt and I just stole artwork off the web like that, I could get in big trouble. So that's actually a really good point. But for the course of this demo, and honestly for you guys for this assignment, you're going to be allowed to do that. Okay, so there we go, and same thing, scale to fill. So now I've got that, and what I can start doing is I can start adding stuff. Now here's what's really cool. So let's say I want to add a text box. Notice as I bring in my text box here, as I extend it, look what's happening to the bottom. Okay, it's extending the page so that I can add in text. Now, one of the things that I like to, you just blah, 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 blah. I don't know what text I'm going to add, but, I can add some text. The other thing that you might want to do is this right now, this does not have a color at all. So what you might want to do is actually have a color for your website, in which case, what I would probably do is start up at the header, bring a rectangle box here, and notice that as big as I build the rectangle box, the page is going to extend. And now we'll talk about sizing in another demo next week, but just we can get this, set up like this for a little bit, and then we'll start talking about how you can size things what we call responsive design, where it changes the size based upon the size of the browser. It's actually pretty cool. But for now, we're just going to do some basic layout. So then I'll hit fill, and I just use that color, that gray color. So there we go. So now it just kind of looks like part of the thing. Now, I've covered over my images. So I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to say arrange, send to back. Now, we've got a little problem, maybe a problem, depends. These images had white backgrounds. Maybe I don't want them to. Well, then I'd have to go into Photoshop and delete the backgrounds. I could show you how to do that. That's a completely different thing. Also, the text is starting to get maybe not as readable. Maybe I should switch to white, or maybe I should just lighten my gray, The X is because it's a rectangular, it's because it's a frame. If we were to, so the question was, guys, why are there X's over the boxes there? It's just showing you what kind of a box you used, okay? If I now go to preview my page in the browser, okay, those rectangles will not show up, okay? We'll talk about gaps and why that happens and so on and so forth later, but you're just laying things out right now, okay? So that's kind of helpful. You start to work on that. So when I go back into my site view here, you can see now how this has not changed, because this gray rectangle was not part of my original master. So, if I wanted to, though, I could copy this. So let's take this gray rectangle and delete it. Go into my master, paste it. I'm just going to remake it because it's not doing what it's supposed to. So I'll just bring in and remake it like this. And then depending upon how we size it, it will show up on every page. So if I do this, hit my fill, there's my gray. Now you can see it's really short, and that's because I haven't set up the responsive design. But at least it's on all of them now. In fact, I wonder, let's just do a quick thing. So if I were to, yeah, see, it doesn't actually respond to the height changes. And that's because it's a box. So if I wanted this gray to be there and actually respond to changes in height, what I really should do is not what I did here, but I actually should take the browser fill color here, click that, and now I can make that my gray color, okay, here. And now whenever I go to any of my masters, no matter how long they are, that gray will extend throughout the entire thing. In fact, now I can go back to my master because my footer is that same color. I can delete this rectangle that's part of that footer because it doesn't matter anymore because it's the same color. And now that fill will cover the entire thing. And now I can do something like a much nicer color for my thing. It might be like a blue, like a dark blue or something like that. It might look really good. I don't know. I take time choosing colors for websites, but that's the beauty of the master, is now I can change it and they all change, right? And then if I want that to go over here to the master for the landing page, I would just copy and paste it. Does that make sense to everybody, how that kind of you can start your layout? This is the very basic starting of how you start putting your website together, but it's important. Now let me say something really quickly about colors, okay? We went over the science of color theory a little bit. Do you remember when we talked about background colors and warm versus cool colors very briefly? Okay? Warm colors and cool colors do what differently than each other? Warm colors appear like they are coming forward. They appear like they're closer. And cool colors appear like they are receding. You can test this very easily in Illustrator or Photoshop. Make two rectangles that are identically the same color, identically the same shape. You make one like orange, and you make the other one purple or blue. And then step back away from your computer. The orange one will pop forward. It's going to look like it's closer. Keep that in mind when you're doing your websites. A background is not supposed to be a screamingly bright color. It distracts, it detracts away from your design, and it competes with the information that you are trying to put forward. Backgrounds, and okay, I say this, all rules are made to be broken, okay? But 99.9% of the time, if you're doing neon yellow as a background for a website, it's not going to work very well. It's not readable. You want something that's cool or something that's dark. Now, I can already see the questions, so let me say this. Photographs. You can have images as backgrounds. If that's the case, make a rectangle. For now, you can make a rectangle as a placeholder for that image, okay? And I will show you how to put images in there and how to make them responsive in another demo. However, let me say this. Unless you want the image the same on every page, you'll have to make a rectangle on each page individually if you want different photographs for each page, right? As a background. Be mindful. Also, be careful of photographs as backgrounds because that gets busy really fast. You need to find a way to separate your background away from your text, which usually is a white box above with a slight opacity on it or something like that. We'll deal with that later, but there are a lot of options to do that sort of stuff on. Does this start to make a little bit more sense? Masters, boxes, and how you extend the content area and everything like that? Yeah? All right, let's get to work.